Good morning, friends. I'm Delaney, and I'm going to be reading your story for you today. So today, we're going to read about a boy who wishes that he could whistle. So a whistle is a sort of sound that you make with your mouth by making air go in and out. And sometimes people like to whistle to call their dogs, for instance. So on the cover, it looks like we can see the boy trying to whistle to call his dog. So the book that we're going to read today is called Whistle for Willie by Ezra Jack Keats. And you might recognize the boy on the cover because this is Peter. And we've read a few books with Peter before. So if you remember in A Letter to Amy and in Peter's Chair, we read books about Peter and his dog Willie. So now we're going to read another book about Peter and Willie as Peter tries to learn how to whistle so that he can call his dog Willie. Oh, how Peter wishes he could whistle. So I don't think that Peter knows how to whistle right now. He's leaning against this stoplight and he's wishing that he could whistle. He saw a boy playing with his dog. Whenever the boy whistled, the dog ran straight to him. Peter tried and tried to whistle, but he couldn't, so instead he began to turn himself around and around and around. He whirled faster and faster. So this boy over here does know how to whistle, and so this boy is whistling to call his dog. And Peter tried to whistle so that he could call Willie, but he was having trouble, so he got distracted and he started to whirl or turn around in circles. When he stopped, everything turned up and down and up and up and down and around and around. So, friends, if you've ever spun around in a circle, when you stop, sometimes you're really dizzy and it looks like the world is moving around in front of your eyes. So that's what happened to Peter here, is he spun around a little bit too much and he got dizzy. And now it looks like the world is moving around, and you can see in the picture that the stoplights, the lights look like they're off of the light posts and everything's kind of moving all around. Peter saw his dog, Willie, coming. See Willie right here. Quick as a wink, he hid in an empty carton lying on the sidewalk. Wouldn't it be funny if I whistled? Peter thought. Willie would stop and turn around to see who it was whistling. Peter tried again to whistle, but he couldn't. So Willie walked on. I'm sorry about that. So Willie doesn't know that Peter's trying to call him because Willie can't hear Peter whistling because Peter doesn't really know how to whistle. And I'm sure that if Peter called Willie's name, he would come because he knows how to come to his name. But Peter really wants to call him by whistling. Peter got out of the carton and started home. On the way, he took some colored chalks out of his pocket and took a long, long line. Drew a long, long line. So you can see Peter is drawing a line along the ground that shows the pathway that he's walking around. And you can see he looks like he went around these girls and he's just dragging the chalk along as he walks home. Right up to his front door. He stood there and tried to whistle again. He blew until his cheeks were tired, but nothing happened. So Peter is practicing really hard. You can see that he's doing it again and again. And when you practice something and you do it again and again, you get better at it. So I wonder if Willie will be able to whistle soon. He went into his house and put on his father's old hat to make himself feel more grown up. He looked into the mirror to practice whistling. Still no whistle. So Peter is pretending right now that he's his dad because he thinks that maybe grown-ups can whistle. So maybe if he puts on a hat and he acts like a grown-up, he'll be able to whistle. So he's trying that right now. When his mother saw what he was doing, Peter pretended that he was his father. So again, pretend is to imagine and act something out. So he's acting like his father to his mother. He said, "I've come home early today, dear. Is Peter here?" His mother answered, "Why, no. He's outside with Willie." "Well, I'll go out and look for them," said Peter. First, he walked along a crack in the sidewalk. Then he tried to run from his shadow. So you can't really run from your shadow because your shadow is a spot where light is blocked because you're blocking it with your body. So you can't run away from your shadow. Let's see what happens when Peter tries to run away from his shadow. He jumped off his shadow, but when he landed, they were together again. So he jumped up in the air and his shadow stayed on the ground because he was still blocking the light from above. But he couldn't get away from his shadow because it's still his shadow. So when he landed, he was back on it again. He came around the corner to where the carton was, and who should he see but Willie? So remember when he was back by the carton and he was scrambling into it, Willie was there? Well, he kind of walked away with his chalk and left Willie there, and it looks like Willie stood there and waited for him. Peter scrambled under the carton. So scrambled is to move or climb over something quickly, and you use your hands. He blew and blew and blew, and he kept practicing, and suddenly out came a real whistle. Willie stopped and looked around to see who it was. So Willie heard a whistle, and he's stopping and looking around and seeing who's whistling. "It's me!" Peter shouted and stood up. Willie raced right towards him. So Peter seems thrilled or very excited and happy that he finally managed to whistle. And Willie looks excited that he finally found Peter, because I think he might have been looking for Peter for a little while. Peter ran home to show his mother and father what he could do. They loved Peter's whistling, so did Willie. They look really proud of him. They're clapping, and Willie looks really happy too. Peter's mother asked him and Willie to go on an errand to the grocery store. So an errand is a short trip that you take or do to go get something. So Willie's running an errand for his mother, and he's going to the grocery store to get things. So he whistled all the way there, and he whistled all the way home. So now that he's practiced and learned how to do it, it sounds like he can do it pretty well. The end. All right, friends, so that was Whistle for Willie. I hope you enjoyed reading this book with me, and I'll see you soon. Bye, friends!